Hey, gang, it is Wednesday, and you all know what that means. It's Hump Day. Welcome to Dennis in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live, as always, and it's over tonight on behalf of my friend Chad Colson and his wonderful son Austin. I'm drinking some Austin. It is live and it's over a cocktail. And all of you, we want you to know that Jennifer Bell to my left and also Chad Duplantis now to my right, we are all practicing dentists. We are all educators, and we are all here to bring you in the know. So, welcome to Dennis in the Know. We have an amazing show, and cheers to all of you out there. Tonight, this is someone that all of you have heard of. This is not the quietest man in dentistry. And I will say he has been a great voice for dentistry, a great voice for coaching and practice management. He has touched so many dentists and so many practices out there at this point. Rich Madow is with us tonight, and we are really excited about this because he's really quite a personality and just has so many great pearls and so many great stories from all of the meetings that he's done and all of the dentists that he's gotten to touch over the years. So really happy to have him. But you know what else I'm happy for? I'm always happy for the news.
Are you?
I'm always happy for the news.
Well,
JB, will you give us some news?
I will. I will tell you it's kind of an interesting time. I still think we're a bit in a lull from after the first of the year and a lot of things aren't happening. But there are two things that I think are of importance that folks should know. And a slight reminder, HRSA, we're now 45 days from the end of the reporting period. So make sure you've done your application and completed that if you received funding in the second round. I had proposed, some type of tutorial. I'll work on that this weekend and see if there's any interest in doing that. It's a pretty complex application, and you're going to have a lot of your personal financials for the practice and also payroll information. So it does take a lot of coordinated folks helping you out. If you don't do those things in your practice, getting access to that information. There was an interesting report that came out that the ADA is kind of starting to put their finger on a bit. And the National Toxicology Program and the National Institute of Environmental Health Science is looking at fluoride. And I think studying...
I thought you were going to say they were looking at my blood. I was like,
oh, well, let's not investigate that. I don't think we'll be good.
Just no, say no to the toxicology people.
Correct. But they're looking at fluoride exposure, and they're looking at whether or not it contributes to neurodegenerative disorders. And so I think this is interesting. There's a lot of headwind in looking at fluoride as a public health measure. And obviously the ADA is still in strong support of the fluoride. Water fluoridation programs in local towns, municipalities, and cities. There's still data to support the decision. I think that there is some impetus to relook at the programming to see if this is still a good public health measure or not. If you have a vested interest, or if you have just a general interest in the fluoridation programs that are out there, and as most dentists we do, you can respond with the ADA. They're just asking to be a participant in the evaluation at this point. They're not really expressing a for or against, although I think they've been on record as being in favor of fluoridation programs for a while. But they're just asking to have a seat at the table when they're looking at these programs, because a lot of these fluoridation measures came into place because of a caries prevention modality. So there is this momentum to look at that. And I know one of our former colleagues who we lost last year, Rocky Napier, that was a real big part of something he was very passionate about. So I'll try to keep you posted as public forums, comment periods, and those types of things come to surface. The other thing is that there is another group getting together. I want to do it justice when I say what the name of it is. It's called the Prepare for and Respond to Existing Viruses, Emerging New Threats, and Pandemics Act, or Prevent Pandemics Act. And this is a group of folks who are, reviewing current measures, old measures, and how we move forward post-COVID. The ADA is strongly encouraging dentists to have a seat at the table. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we weren't originally qualified as an essential business, open and operating to treat patients during the pandemic timeframe. And I think there's a lot of dialogue and communication about ensuring that dentists are a part of a response team should other viruses or pandemics come to light, and not be sort of sidelined and then have to kind of claw and fight our way back into the response. Because at the end of the day, after 8 or 12 weeks of doing that, most of us have been treating and interacting with patients for, going on 2 years now, and managing those risks. And we have great data and documentation to show how we've been doing that. So this is a group that's getting together, and we're just trying to make sure that dentists have a seat at the table to have that conversation. Guys, that's really it.
Really?
I know. I mean, there's some other little things, like there's still the open comment period for the CDT. There's another round coming up. And again, that's where we're going to look, or the ADA is looking at medical coding style CDT changes. So if you have a passion in that, or are a member of the ADA or AGD, there are avenues to make sure your voice is getting heard. You can certainly send me a direct message, and I can make sure that gets into the right hands. Several of my colleagues have been sitting in on these open comment periods and trying to make sure that we have a seat. So yeah, that's it. Well, I'm excited because I think this is going to be a really fun conversation. But I had the opportunity to attend one of his courses, and we've had a few folks here who we've all fangirled or fanguyed over attending different CE courses. But Rich was part of, actually, my Seattle Study Club was hosting them, and at the big arena, and we had a really great room there. I love the message that they're teaching dentists, and I love them pushing the envelope to think outside of the box, because I think so many of us operate on a bit of an island, and it's really difficult to sort of push ourselves to think a little bit broader. Just like tonight, Jeff, you asking about a new practice management software. That's such a big fundamental change for your practice, and it takes a lot of bravery, I think, to start envisioning something different. So that's why I'm really excited about him being here tonight. I think he's going to help us think a little bit outside of the box, push a little bit of our boundaries, maybe our comfort zone a little bit. Rich, thank you so much for being here tonight and having a conversation with us.
It is great to be here. I just want to know, am I an honorary dink after this?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You're a dink.
That's automatic.
So Rich and I are here tonight to talk about dumb things that smart dentists do, which I'm really excited about, because I'm pretty sure we're all fairly smart people, but we do kind of fall on those traps of repeating some of the same mistakes we do over and over again. So Rich, what are some of the dumb things that we do on a daily basis?
Oh, there's so many. And, it's so frustrating because, I mean, look at you three. You guys are super smart. Dentists are so smart. I mean, we have to be. But then again, sometimes smart people do really dumb things. And then the dumbest thing, of course, is when we do them over and over and over and over again. And I think I've probably done, 1,000 dumb things in my practice, but being in the position now, and for many years of being a dental coach, consultant, speaker, et cetera, and I get the honor of speaking to so many dentists and team members, I really find out what dumb things we're doing over and over again. So I've got a bunch of them. I'll tell you one.
All right, let's shoot one off.
I'm really excited for this, because I'm sure I've done a lot of them.
We all have.
Maybe the first one is whether or not we've actually done them.
Okay. We'll have to take a little vote after each one. Okay, here's one. And this is I thought of this one because typically when people contact our company, the Madow Center for Dental Practice Success, about coaching or help with their practice or whatever, everybody says we could really just use some more new patients. If we could only get more new patients, everything will be better. And of course, we all love new patients, right? But then we do our data analysis, and we always find that there are two things going on. One, they've had thousands or millions of patients come in their office and they did an exam and maybe a prophy or whatever, and then that patient kind of slipped out the back door. They lost track of them, back door, slipped through the cracks, go in the black hole, whatever you want to call them. But it hasn't been that long. It's not like somebody's been out of the practice for 10 years. Those people are gone. But people who are, you know, 6 months overdue, a year overdue, a year and a half overdue, they don't they don't have the proper protocols to contact them to get them excited about coming. And so here they've got this database of patients who at one time or another picked up the phone, to call your office. They were excited to see you. They know where you are. They know you. They know the hygienist. They know everyone. It's simple to get them back, but all they want to do is focus on new patients and not reactivate. And then part B of that is they always say, our production's down, blah, blah, blah. We need more new patients, more new patients, more new patients. But they have patients who are that haven't left through the back door, active patients in their practice, but they're not diagnosing and presenting perio disease properly. They're letting them slip away with restorative needs just because they want to keep them comfortable and they're afraid to talk to them. So they've got two gold mines, current patients who are being undertreated for one reason or another. Usually it's because they don't have the skill or the guts or the balls or whatever to tell them their gums are looking horrible. And then they've got this huge backlog of patients who are overdue and they're not contacting them properly. So sure, we love new patients, but most dental practices have everything they need right in there already. So that's a dumb thing that smart dentists do, right? We spend money on marketing, we focus on the new patient fix, and yet we've got that $1 million file cabinet, so to speak,
Yeah.
right under our noses.
And how much cheaper is it to keep an existing
Exactly.
patient than it is to acquire a new one?
So much cheaper. All the skills to keep an existing patient, it's all about being kind to people, being nice to people, treating people the way you'd like to be treated. It doesn't cost anything to keep a patient happy. Yet, we tend to forget those skills during our busy day of putting out fires and all those other crazy things. So that's
Do
a
you
dumb
have
thing
any
smart dentists do.
innovative ways to reactivate those 6-month overdue, 12? How do we
it's a
get
great
them
question.
jazzed up?
Okay, it's a great question. I don't know if innovative is the word because it really is just, let's face it, it's kind of a chore. But here's what you see. You see like practice say, okay, when somebody has downtime, you go alphabetically, go through the patients who are overdue and start calling them. So what happens? They call, they've got 10 minutes of downtime. They call a few patients. They get voicemails. They leave a crappy message like, I'm calling you from Dr. Johnson's office and you're 3 months overdue and it's very important that you come in for your cleaning. Click. And just or the patient even answers, which it's somewhat rare these days, and they say the same thing. Or you send a bunch of impersonal texts, and then 10 minutes go by, you're frustrated, you go back to being a dental assistant or a front desk person or a hygienist or whatever, and it just doesn't work. So one thing is I find you need to have dedicated time where somebody's job is to reactivate patients, not when you have some downtime, not when you have a few minutes, but today from 2 to 4 p.m., whatever, Elizabeth is going to do a reactivation campaign. And then when you actually get someone on the phone, it can't just be some generic script. You actually have to look at the record and find out what's going on and start with a personal conversation like, Elizabeth, this is so-and-so at so-and-so's office. And I'm so glad you picked up. And last time we saw you, you were getting ready for your son's wedding. How'd that go? Or you missed your last appointment because you had to have a knee replacement. I hope you're healing well. Just do something personal.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't just say you're overdue for your cleaning. Say something like, I was reviewing your charts with Becky, your hygienist, and she's really concerned about that area in the upper right. And, make it personal. That's the whole thing. Take the time. Sure, you can spend 20 seconds on each call and plow through the patients, or you can spend 2 or 3 minutes on each call and get through fewer patients at a time, but actually get people excited about coming back in. So dedicated time, personalized message. That's what you got to do. And after all that, if they don't want to come back in, that's their right. Let it go.
That's right.
And Rich, are you
Yeah.
seeing? So, I mean, now there's a lot of artificial intelligence built into many of the software platforms that are out there, and some of the phone systems, some of the new platforms that are coming out that are even going in and looking and catching, bite wing X-rays that we misdiagnosed, and we have so many ways to acquire this data. But I think what you said is so key, that regardless of all of that AI, that makes the hunting down job easier. But that personal touch, once you have that information, is really key. I would agree with you.
I would
I
agree.
think
And again,
that's a
I've got
skill within itself too. I
Yeah.
think it's a skill of getting to know these people and writing these little triggers down throughout the initial visit to where you have them, you know?
absolutely. And I call that the blue sheet because back when I started my practice, we didn't have computers. That's how long ago it was. So we had paper charts, and I had a blue index card in every chart. And it was our job that we had to write personal notes about every single patient and refer back to them constantly. I still call it the blue sheet, although obviously it's electronic these days. But you've got to have those notes. They're useful for so many things, and this is just one example.
I
Yep.
find them as a clinician, it's really helpful too, that I sit down and we have a couple of different owner docs in our practice. So I can refer back to your blue sheet and say, oh, hey, how was that soccer game that you were running off to the last time you were here? And most of them are like, I can't believe you know that. Like, well, we just try to keep tabs on what's going on and, those types of
They
things.
think
So,
you're a genius. I mean, they think that you actually have memorized the personal lives
yeah.
of every single patient, or either that, or even if they're onto it, who cares? It's still a great touch.
All
So,
right. What else do we do, dumb?
oh man, we do so many dumb things. Um, our podcast is called the
We
Dental
can
Practice.
extend the broadcast if you need.
Please, yeah,
Yeah.
we might need a
How
couple
many
days.
dumb things do we do?
Okay, we have a podcast called the Dental Practice Fixers, and at the end of every podcast, I do 3 or 4 secret shopper calls, and I used to do them live at seminars. Jennifer, I don't know if when you saw Dave and I speak
Yeah.
at the PNC Arena, if we did live secret shopper
I think
calls.
we did.
Yeah, we stopped doing them live. Do you know why we stopped doing them live? It wasn't
No.
because somebody in the audience broke down in tears because they were so embarrassed that we busted them. It was not because we got sued for defamation of character for embarrassing a dentist in front of. Now, those things actually did happen, but that's not why we stopped doing our mystery shopper calls live. We stopped doing them live, and I experienced the same thing on my podcast because calling a dental practice during normal business hours, about 40 to 50% of the time, the phone doesn't get answered. It goes to voicemail. You get a voicemail like, "Hi, you've reached Dr. Smith's office, and we're too busy seeing other patients to pay attention to you. So call back later, idiot." Click. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Somebody calls your office on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. and they're going to get a voicemail that says you're too busy to talk to them. Well, you think about a potential new patient. They're nervous, they're anxious, they don't want to be there. This is their dream come true, right?
Yep.
I called that office that my friend Chad recommended, and they were too busy for me. I'm off the hook. Click. Never hear from them again. So voicemails, or we're currently at lunch. You know what? They don't care. This is the one time during this person's busy day that they have to make their personal phone calls, and they're going to get a voicemail saying we're currently at lunch. No way. Never, ever, ever voicemail during regular business hours. And regular business hours, if you're closed Wednesday, it's still regular business hours. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever, your phone needs to be answered.
But Rich, I'm curious what your opinion is on this, because so our friend Paul Goodman always says that dentists are a special kind of cheap. And and I agree with him, because I really do find that in the industry that there are a lot of people who are really penny wise and pound foolish,
Oh,
that they,
you're not kidding.
so the thought is, well, why would I hire an extra person at the front office to answer phone calls? And I'm like, are you crazy? How many new patients, answering that call and putting one person on the books pays for them for the day? So if nothing else happens, I just find that, I feel like sometimes trying to save the money for, for the extra staff person, the extra team member that is there for the touch points that are so important is one of the biggest misses for a lot of offices.
It's so true. And Paul has a lot of great sayings. He's a very
Yeah.
wise person, and he's so true because we're cheap at the wrong times.
Right.
And maybe we'll get to that in one of the other dumb things about how we spend money in the wrong way. But dentists are cheap. But I mean, in my office, I had a front desk person who retired. She was, I don't know, 70 years old or whatever, but she still had the skills. She was still sharp. So we were closed on Fridays. I paid her like a pittance to come in and just sit at the front desk and greet people if they happen to walk in and answer the phones. I cannot tell you how many new patients she scheduled that we wouldn't have had. I mean, it's so inexpensive. At the very worst in answering service, I'm not a fan, but it's better than nothing. It's better than voicemail.
Yeah. Well, there's people I know that will actually make employees clock out when somebody doesn't show up. Like I'm like, are you kidding me? If I can have somebody there for, $20 an hour to $35 an hour, whatever it is, $40 an hour for a hygienist, I don't care. If they get one person in during that hour that we wouldn't have gotten if they had just gone off the clock, what's worth more money? And
But that is so unfair to the team member to clock out.
I agree.
Due to nothing that they did wrong, a patient notion, that's ridiculous. I've never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
That's really bad. I can't imagine that anybody's left in that office. It's not one of you, is it?
No, I promise not.
No, because people need that comfort. I mean, again, bring him up, but Paul Goodman talks about that even with associates. Like, there needs to be some guarantee to show up every day to do your job, and then incentivize or do whatever to go above and beyond. But most people need some dependable income to be able to come in and do that. So if you're asking folks to clock in and out constantly when folks show up and don't show up, it's number one, very short-sighted, for, to Jeff's point, a long-term gain opportunity. But two, it's not a great way to retain good people.
It just shows such a lack of people skill to do that.
Yeah.
That's abominable.
And in today's day and age, I mean, most of it's done through the internet. I think we know a lot of that. I mean, we have to have an internet presence. We have to have a way for them to communicate with us online. But let me just ask the three of you. You call a business and you go to voicemail. What's the first thing that you do? Are you going to leave them a message?
Never.
I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call right back. And because you're like, certainly that's a mistake. If it goes to voicemail again, I'm going to hang up and I'm pretty much done. I'm going to go elsewhere. And that's one of the things that we try to drive home. And I look back, 2003, I was looking at different practices that I might join. And at the time it was an associate to a buy-in. And I remember there was this one practice that was kind of courting me. And so I called them to speak with the doctor, and it went to voicemail. And it was, like you said, 11 o'clock one day. I called him back and it went straight to voicemail. And in the back of my mind, fortunately, I didn't go work there, but I was like, do I really want to work here when they're pushing people through to voicemail? Are they understaffed at the front desk? What's going on? I want that phone to be answered when it rings, and not just 3 or 4 rings. I want the second or third ring at the most.
Totally agree. And kind of the next step in that is that if somebody actually does answer the phone, this is like the make it or break it moment. We're talking about a potential new patient here. This is the crucial moment that the person answering your phone at your office has to know what the heck we're doing. I just did for last week's podcast, what hasn't even come out yet. I just recorded it a couple of days ago. I posed as a patient calling saying, hey, I went to another dentist. They said that I need 4 crowns, and I know I do because my teeth are a mess, and they were $1,500 each. It was $6,000. And I really just can't afford to pay that. And they didn't offer any way for me to pay that out over time. Do you have any way in your office? I'm calling saying, I know I need 4 crowns. I want to come to your office. I want to pay. I just can't pay all at once. Do you have a way that I could pay that off over time? I did 4 calls. I think 3 out of the 4 said, yes, we have care credit or, whatever, and gave a pretty decent, not great, but pretty decent explanation of how that works. Okay, so now they answer the question. Yeah, we can do your crowns. We can let you pay them off over time. Not one of them made any attempt to offer an appointment. it's just unbelievable. They like
Yeah.
they answered my question. I said thank you very much, and they said okay, bye. It's like what? This person's call. I mean, this is
Okay,
not some.
thanks.
It's not some phony phone call like some creep who just does. Well, actually, it was some phony
Nah.
phone call, but they didn't know that, right? I mean, like, what do they think? I'm going to call plumber next and say, "Do you unclog drains?" I mean, it was just, it's unbelievable, and it happens time and time again where they, somebody calls, handing them a beautiful new patient on a silver platter, and they just refuse to offer an appointment. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Or
and that we
or
actually talk about that in our office meetings. Like, what really, if there's a hierarchy of what are the most important job descriptions in each position, and I always say to the front office, what's the most important thing you do when the phone rings? What is the goal for every call? A phone call is someone saying, I want to come to your office. I want to spend money with you. Your job is just to allow them to do that. Get them in the office. And so many times that gets missed, to your point, where they're trying to offer good customer service, but no one has ever told them, look, the goal of the phone call is to get the patient in the office.
Yep, I so agree. It's so funny. My mom, who's 87, is the biggest fan of my podcast. She listens every week, and every time she listens, she calls me up after she listens and said, "Rich, what is with these people? I've never worked in a dental office, and I can do a better job than them." So I said, "Okay, Mom, I'll tell you what. I'm going to call you like tomorrow at 10 a.m. Answer the phone like it's a dental office, and I'm just going to throw you some random questions. I didn't prep her or tell her what to say or anything. So I want to see how you do." And sure enough, without having any dental knowledge, she was nice. She welcomed me. She thanked me for calling the practice. She said, "You'll love it here." And then she said, "Can you come in tomorrow at 2 p.m.?" And I said, "Well, she did everything right, but I wanted to throw her for another loop." And I said, "No, I can't come in tomorrow at 2 p.m." And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what. What's the best day and time for you? I'm going to get you in." It's like, can anybody think on their feet like that? I don't know. My mom
Yeah.
can. Not too many
It's a
other
special
people
skill
can.
set, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, yeah, it can be taught. Not everything can be taught. Not the personality and the enthusiasm, maybe,
Yeah.
but getting a patient into the appointment book, I think that can be taught.
Does that come through obviously training? Does it come through incentives? What are the things do you need to figure out what gets people to tick and then find a way to motivate them to the behavior that you would like to see on the phone? Like what's when you train
Yeah,
teams and doctors trying to create a culture and encourage them to make these types of changes, what gets them to make that next leap?
yeah, it's a great question, and it's funny when I talk with our coaches about how we work with practices, we always say we want to find someone's strengths and help them emphasize their strengths, and then when we find where their weaknesses are, we want to teach them to get over the weaknesses. So everybody has their own personality, but some things, let's face it, some things are a must. Some things are deal breakers, and there are only so many ways to ask a patient if they want to come in. It's not like you have to memorize this huge technique and script and lingo. It's, you say, "Hey, we'd love to see you in our practice. We can see you at 11 a.m. tomorrow. If that doesn't work well for you, we've got 2:30 on Tuesday, which works best." And anybody can do that. Yes, some people unfortunately do it in an unenthusiastic monotone. But if that's the best you got, that's the best you got. They still can do it. They're still capable of doing it.
So give us more. Tell me something
Okay,
else stupid that
more
I've
dumb
done.
things. Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe you'll disagree with this one.
No, I listen. I mean,
So
Yeah.
far, so good.
Okay.
that's the age process. We've done all the dumb things, and then you learn from them, or we hear from people like you that we're still doing them.
Me too. One of the things that as a coach and consultant, we get to see people's profit and loss statements, their financial, all the money stuff. We get to see that. And it's confidential, of course, but you can pull all this info. And I'm just amazed how many dentists are underproducing, undercollecting, not making the income they want, and they're ready to learn. And they've come to us for help, and they're ready to learn. But then we start looking at their balance sheets, and they've got this like unbelievable debt because they went to some convention and some slick salesperson on the floor talk them into buying this expensive
Mhm.
techno gadgetry that they do not need. And I call it buy it and they will come, kind of as a joke, because they won't. And it's just really sad. And I'm not a Luddite. I've got nothing against tech. Um, you know, cone beam images are incredible. They're just so much better than what we were used to before that. If you're into CEREC or being able to mill your own crowns in your office and you're good at it, it's phenomenal to be able to do that. But it doesn't bring patients in, and it doesn't get patients to say yes to their treatment. And the salespeople on the convention floors, and I hate to say anything bad about them, because when we had our Vegas seminar for 25 years, we couldn't have done it without the great dental companies and industry people and exhibitors that supported us. There's no way we could have pulled it off. So I have great respect for them. But on the other hand, they will try to talk a naive dentist into buying a six-figure piece of equipment saying this will grow your practice. And in most cases, it will not. Can you do better dentistry with it? Sure. Will it make your life fun and challenging and learn new skills? Yeah, and that's all great. But chances are it will not grow your practice. Or, as I always say, yes, I'll only get that crown if you can do it in one visit. Said no patient ever. And that's not a knock on CEREC. It's just saying that we're sold these things, and dentists go into $100,000, $200,000, $250,000 worth of debt, thinking it's going to increase their practice, and it just increases their debt and puts them under more pressure and stress to earn that money. It's really sad to see.
Yeah.
So buy it and they will come, I think is another dumb thing that smart dentists do.
I don't disagree with that. I own a lot of the technology that you've talked about. And I've also talked to a lot of dentists who are onboarding these different technologies and making sure that when they buy it, it doesn't turn into the treadmill in the corner with a coat hanging on top of it, right? That they, number one, don't bring in too much at one time that they can't figure out how to implement it. And two, that there has to be an ROI and an investment strategy to make sure that those investments are paying for themselves. And you're right, salespeople, they push the Section 179 tax deductions and all the other things. They make it very attractive for folks to go ahead and make those purchases. And then they have a lot of debt, and eventually the tax deductions go away, but the mortgage payments don't. And as dumb dentists do smart dentists do dumb things, we were absolutely in that boat where we bought all these technologies because we wanted to be competitive in an environment, and then tax deductions are gone. We have a profitable practice. Tax liability went off the chart, and our mortgage payments were also going off the chart. And so, I think that's a really valuable lesson that you're teaching folks, to think very wisely about the investments that they're making in their practice.
Right, I agree.
Timely way. And eventually there's no way to get around bringing in stuff. Like the technology piece is sort of snowballing on most dentists, but they can't do it all at one time. And the Section 179 stuff won't save them forever.
Right. And also, you don't have to be the first kid on the block with something while it's still really high priced and not as good as it will be. And I'm not saying to wait, because you can wait forever and never take action playing that game. So that's dangerous as well. But when something first comes out, it's more expensive and it's not as good. And look, I don't care if if you like to drive a Porsche and you can afford it, and you and your financial planner agree that you're socking enough money away, go buy 5 Porsches. I don't care, and have the fanciest office in town if your cash flow can allow it. But don't do it based on the promise that it's going to improve those things, because it usually won't.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think so many of us have gotten caught up in that. And I'm like Jennifer, I've got a lot of those pieces of technology you've spoken about, but I've fallen flat on my face with technology. I've made mistakes that I should not have bought, but I've been doing this for 22 years. And I feel that right now we're kind of gelling because we've got the systems in place to handle that technology. And we do it the right way. It's not same day dentistry isn't going to replace a lab bill. There's so many things that you have to understand before you start making these purchases, and dentists don't.
Yeah, Chad, I would say too, to me, I think the education is the bigger piece than the technology. It's the education on how to use that technology and create a return on investment without doing something in a way that you wouldn't otherwise do it. In other words, you're not just selling something because you have this technology, but it makes your dentistry faster. You can turn your room over faster. There's got to be something tangible that you can get from having that technology. And the only way to do that is with education. You can't just buy the piece of equipment and expect that it's gonna do all those things for you. You have to do your homework.
Yeah. And, Jeff, I so agree with you. And I wish the salespeople would take that tact as well and explain that to the dentist instead of saying, oh, this is going to grow your practice. This is going to be a great return on investment. And the poor sucker dentist who's struggling is thinking, okay, this is going to be the thing that turns my practice around. And it's not. Yep.
Well, it doesn't make bad dentists or bad business people good. Like, none of the technology we've talked about changes that modality. I think Jeff's right about the educational piece.
Totally true.
Yep, well, and differentiating yourself in the marketplace. Like, if you're going to bring on a technology, it should be a technology no one else is offering, and that you can educate yourself and be that go-to person in your community that could do something different, diversify your suite of services to make sure that you create your niche, especially if you're a fee for service.
I mean, in a way, but how many technologies are out there that are so unbelievably different, and that you're going to be the only person in the community that has it? I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I get it.
But I think the way you differentiate yourself is by providing an amazing patient experience that pretty much costs you nothing.
Hey, why don't you come to Texas tomorrow and you can see my new Tesla that I just ordered and my robotic surgery arm.
Wow. Can you show me Did you just order a Tesla, really?
No.
No.
No, I drive way more than 250 miles. I'm just saying, it's like those are the two pieces of technology that maybe not everybody has. Tesla, maybe, but the robot, not yet.
And Chad uses the robotic arm to make his bourbon. So
yes.
Oh, see, you're losing the human touch, man.
Yes.
All right, give us. You got one or two more?
I'll be here all night, right? Well, the last one we were doing kind of reminded me of another one. Have you guys ever and this is something I did probably several times in my practice before I realized it didn't work, and that is taking one of those weekend warrior treatment plan acceptance courses. And one of them I took was in Texas. So I'm not going to say who gave this course, but this person's long gone. Kind of like a famous treatment plan case acceptance guy. And they would pretty much say, like, when a new patient comes in on their first visit or their second visit, we got to do this huge fancy presentation and throw this piece of paper in front. Now, remember why most new patients come in. I shipped a filling, I'm in a little bit of pain, I'm overdue for a cleaning, I got new insurance. Even patients that need tons of treatment, most of them have no idea, right? So this patient's going to come in, and then on their first or second visit, you're going to barrage them with this list. It's like 20 pages long, all these procedures, codes, things they don't understand, and tell them they need $20,000 worth of dentistry. And then say, they teach you all these lines in these case presentation courses, like, well, is this the kind of dentistry you want? Then is there any reason that you're not going to get this and say yes today? It's like you're backing this patient into a corner. And every now and then somebody says yes, and you think you're like the greatest treatment planner in the world, but the 90% of the time they run out of your practice screaming because they think the dentist was trying to oversell them. We tend to forget about those and just remember the successes. But I think, trying to use the quotes, sell dentistry is a big mistake that we make. And, you really can't sell dentistry. You've got to establish the trust. You've got to make the patient think that your practice is the best practice they've ever been to, that if they do indeed need a lot of dental treatment, they're going to believe you because you're very honest and you're ethical and you explain things well. And then eventually they're going to trust you enough to say, you know what, I'm ready to get it all done. Or I'm not ready to get it all done. Let's do some now, some later, some a little bit later, some a little bit later. So I always say that it's not about when patients get their dental treatment completed. It's about where patients get their dental treatment completed. So if we're always worried about when, like we got to push them into saying yes now, well, that's going to turn off so many people. If we're worried about where they're going to get their dental treatment completed and we want them to get it done in our practice, then we're going to treat them accordingly. And, you know, it's funny. I was in this course, I remember, and this guy was like, well, now remember, you got to ask somebody 12 times before they say yes. I'm like thinking, well, what does that mean? Like, sir, would you like to have this treatment done? No. Oh, it's okay. I got 11 more times. Sir, would you like to have this treatment done? No. Well, so I got 10 more times. Would you like to have this treatment done? No. Then you're thinking, well, I'm doing something wrong. And then you're like flipping the sentence around like Yoda, you know, this treatment, would you like to have it done? It just doesn't work. You can't force people to get things they're not ready for. So be patient. Let the patient be comfortable in your practice. Let them trust you. Let them know you're a great dentist and your team's a great team. And when they're ready, and it might be on the first visit, they might say, yeah, I've been putting it off. I'm ready to get it all done, doc. Well, that's great. But if it's not that kind of patient, you got to let them ease into it as well. So trying to sell dentistry quickly, I think, is a really dumb thing that smart dentists do.
You know, and there's never a worse situation than you could get into when you push a patient into treatment. I mean, you push and you push and you push, and I always see it as failure.
It always, and the treatment always screws up when you do that too. That's like,
exactly.
Doesn't
something bad happening.
That's
It
exactly
hurts when I chew on it. It
That's
didn't hurt till
exactly
you mess with it.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we do a couple more real quick? I think we're running late. If you guys want me
I
to
love
just
it.
shut up, you let me know.
Yeah. So speed round?
Oh, well, yeah, let's do a speed round.
Let's do a speed round.
Speed round, not using what I call specialized professionals. So every dentist needs a team of professionals, meaning an accountant, an attorney, you know, a web person, maybe an SEO person, a lease negotiator, all these things. And again, dentists, like you were saying earlier, are so damn cheap. Well, my nephew's good with computers. I'm going to let him do my SEO, and you know, and my wife's best friend is an attorney. You know, it doesn't matter that she's a real estate attorney. You know, she's an attorney's an attorney, right? So all these people who are so important to us, our financial planner, our accountant, our lease negotiator, there are people who specialize in working with dentists. Yet, out of comfort, convenience, cheapness, or whatever, we just go with people that don't understand our niche. And it's a huge, this is a, you know, over the course of your career, probably $1 million mistake, not using specialized professionals.
Love that. I love that.
Totally agree.
Cool. Okay, how about another one? I call this not dancing with who brung you. I think that's a Southern expression. You guys are all Southerners, aren't you? Kind of.
Well,
By way of New Jersey.
By way of New Jersey.
You're both by way of New Jersey?
I'm not.
Jeff, was it South Jersey at least? That kind of makes you a Southerner.
No, actually Central Jersey. Yeah, I can't even say South Jersey. Not south enough to like the Eagles.
Well, who likes the Eagles?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Old Bridge, which is just east of New Brunswick, East Brunswick, where Rutgers is.
Gotcha. But not where Rutgers Dental School is. Man, I lectured at Rutgers Dental School.
No, that's Newark.
A couple years ago.
That's
woo.
Tough place.
That made where I live in downtown Baltimore look like the Garden of Eden.
Exactly.
Where were we? Oh, okay. Dance with who brung you. Dentists, you know, get frustrated with their income, and they lose focus, and they get distracted by other things like, oh, you know, I'm gonna invest in my cousin's brew pub. That's gonna be fun to you know, be up till 2 a.m. every morning worrying about waiters stealing cash. That's a great idea. Or I'm gonna sell some kind of you know, $80 multi-level lotion in my office, and that's going to be the path to riches. And they just screw up their relationships with people. Now, you three, I think, from what I've gathered, are pretty special dentists, pretty what most people would look at as high-end dentists. But so maybe this won't apply to you, but I'm going to say for most dentists, the bread and butter dentists, the best path to a really good, stable income is having one practice. I can't stand the term satellite practice. Like, oh, I'm going to open up a satellite practice. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, this practice is going to revolve around my other practice, and you know. And then when you use that term, like to a patient, oh, we want to have you go to our satellite practice. They don't even know what it means. It sounds like it's some inferior practice where you put the schlock associate and the people who don't know what they're doing, and then you doubled your overhead without having one extra
Rich,
patient yet.
before you go on, Jennifer and we're going to continue this conversation with you after. But go ahead.
So, and again, it doesn't.
I blame it on a salesperson.
Well,
all
Yeah.
day.
I know many dentists who have had incredible success with multiple practices. I mean, I know multi-millionaires who have had incredible success with multiple practices. But for most dentists, I'll say most dentists, the key to a successful practice is one practice with a great team doing the procedures that people need. You know, endo, core, and crown, implant and implant restoration, periodontal therapy. You know, don't get distracted. That's where that's where the action is. That's where the practice satisfaction and the income and the low headaches, that's where you find it. And I asterisked it. Can you use that as a verb? I asterisked it.
Yeah, I think
But
I'm good with it.
by saying it doesn't apply to everyone, and I know some great success stories that have done the complete opposite. But from what I see for most dentists, that's how to be successful in dentistry.
So
wanna
it's
dive
really
into
funny.
that so
Jennifer and
much
I
more.
both opened satellite practices,
They
and
revolve around their current practices, though.
Right.
Yeah.
They revolve around
And-
you and your bank
Yeah.
book.
but it's interesting, and we've commiserated with each other about some of those struggles, and you think back to like franchises and really successful franchises. Well, how did they do that? They didn't open one and just oh, we're kind of doing okay, things are going all right, let's open another one. No, they got their systems down to a science, and then
Yes.
they said,
Yeah.
now that our systems are down to a science, I've got this under control where I almost don't need to be here. Now it's time to potentially look at another location, as long as you're not taking anything away from the first location or the systems that got you there in the first
Yeah.
place.
True,
And-
and I'm a big believer in systems, but a dental office is not a Jimmy John's franchise. Let's face it, the three of you were successful in dentistry for many reasons, but a lot of it had to be with who you guys are.
Yeah.
Well,
The widget maker.
appreciate so many great tips, like so many great things we could continue to talk about, and we probably will at some point, and we'd love to have you back, but we've actually gone a minute over. But Rich, we so appreciate you joining us, and just so excited that you decided to come on, and great to finally talk with you, and hopefully we'd love to have you on again sometime soon.
Just let me know. It was a ton of fun. I really appreciate you giving me the chance to talk to your folks. If anybody wants to know more about what we do, just go to madow.com, madow.com, or you can send me an email. It's just rich, RICH, @madow.com. So it's MADOW.
Rich, please put those in the comments of any of the posts that we put up about you this week, and
Cool.
and really appreciate you. You're dynamic, man. I'm super excited.
Well,
And
I
just
wasn't
ignore
always
all
this
the
way,
ugly
but when-
comments from Jennifer.
But I don't care about that. But I wasn't always this way. When I became an honorary dink, it changed everything. I mean everything. It's just
Well, hey, we're
unbelievable.
honorary to
That's the
have
best
you.
marketing we could get.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Thank
much, guys. It was really fun.
All right,
Thank you.
Rich.
Thanks,
Be good.
Rich.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.